And we cleaned the road. We cleaned the highway. We brought all of our people in. We had a huge meeting in our brand new production.
And we bought lunch for everybody. We made sure our employees were paid the entire time.
Yeah.
And we said, we got to shut down. So we picked 3 days. I shouldn't tell the secret. We picked the 3 least busiest days of the week. They said, give us the days we're going to pick.
Yeah.
All these are retrofitted with modern ventilation. And you can hear them. Each room producing. Okay. Each room is 4,200 square feet. So you got 10 of these we call cold frames. Each of them are equipped with light deprivation, which means they open and close. We tell the plants how long each day is and when it's nighttime to go to sleep. We have to deprive it of every bit of light, even a small sliver. It gets confused thinking it's still summer. Is it fall? We tell it it's winter. The days are getting shorter. You need to produce flower. When does this get harvested?
This will be harvested on the 2nd of March.
Each of these rooms have water control. They can determine what kind of water. I will tell you the water these plants drink is better than what most residents in New Mexico get. These get filtered, clean water, added nutrients, everything they consume, light, water, vitamins, we control it all. And then when we get real close to harvesting, we stop producing and we stop feeding it. And we basically clean it out of the system by giving it just clear, clean water until it filters everything out. Remember, we sued the state multiple times.
Yeah.
Because we bought this massive campus having this vision. It was going to be populated with all these plants. When we first got our license with no guarantee that we could eventually populate it like you see today, they licensed us for, 120? No, 150 plants. They basically licensed us for 1 row of these. That's what a license operator. We said, are you crazy? And we said, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we'll take you. And we sued them. They took us to 450. And we sued them again. They took us to 2,500. There's been this deep paranoia. And yes, I respect Susana Martinez, but we sued her too. We sued the state fair and we won because guess what? They violated our free speech right. And they were required not only to pay for the damages, our legal fees, and said, it's just a plan. I realize that this is a greenhouse for cannabis, but I would challenge you that most indoor greenhouses for any indoor plant or any purpose look as healthy as this.
Yeah.
Do you notice how it's lifting up your spirit? You're taking in massive amounts of oxygen. Because of the amount of oxygen that's being produced, it does impact what we call the photosynthesis. Plants need carbon dioxide. Sometimes we have to put decaying materials in a bag like cabbage. It releases carbon dioxide. We're always trying to measure to keep the plants getting what it needs while producing heaters, blowers, temperature control. See the fans blowing and you see the plants vibrating? That is a precaution and a treatment to avoid mold growth. Plants are less likely to grow mold because remember, there's high humidity. If it's a stagnant environment, it becomes more likely to become infirm. We have to keep them always moving, getting fresh air constantly.
This is where Duke employs hundreds of people, hundreds of New Mexicans. Cannabis is a real industry in New Mexico that provides real jobs. And this is what you call economic freedom. A lot of conservatives don't agree with cannabis. But guys, this is legal cannabis. This is the definition of economic freedom. He's bringing prosperity to Bernalillo, prosperity to New Mexico. And you've got to appreciate the hard work that has gone into this facility. It's amazing.
This is an agricultural activity.
Yeah.
It is the root of New Mexico. Are you aware what the state motto is for New Mexico? It grows as it goes.
Okay.
And this is the root of the New Mexican culture, growing plants. And I laugh and go, he's a pot grower. We're farmers, okay? We are real farmers with advanced technology. New Mexico could be the largest producer of cannabis in this country if it was legal across state lines. This would provide diversity, national security. And we have the likes of Sandia Labs, Los Alamos Lab, but we forget also White Sands, Cannon Air Force Base, healthcare. Healthcare is my love. I believe that's where I cut my teeth, and I believe so strong in. We've got some of the finest healthcare systems that are about ready to fail if we don't do something. We've got agriculture, and that's the one thing we have failed to capitalize on it. We need to be able to be a national leader in agriculture, including cannabis production. And then the last thing you mentioned, oil and gas. We can have a diversified economy. We can finally get over this fear. Oh, we are a poor state. I've said over and over, no, we are absolutely a poorly run state.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more you want. There's 10 rooms, and each one, they're not in sequence because it depends on how we schedule them and clean them. Each one is 1 week older than the other. Look at those beautiful ladies, huh?
Yeah.
Each of them ready to produce consumable, usable, quality cannabis. Does that look like some scary drug den? And these are all coming from those mothers we talked about. But we know the genetics after each cycle will be tested again. Every lot, what are we down to state law? 5-pound lots? Whatever the state has now, they changed the standard. Every 5-pound lot would be tested for everything, microbes and mold, anything that could harm a human. And they have to be taken out. I love touching the plants. And the leaf. Remember when there was the war on drugs?
Mm-hmm.
They made this appear as though it was life-threatening. This was people of color doing bad things. Brown people, black people, war protesters. Only evil people consume cannabis. And they gave it that very nasty feeling. Marijuana.
Yeah.
This is marijuana. Even though our abuelas, our cousins, our tias probably kept a bottle of alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and put the leaves in there because they knew of its medicinal value.
Good for arthritis, right?
Exactly. No matter what others may argue, I will tell you over and over, this is one of the safest plants in the entire world. Safer than many prescription toxic narcotics. Non-addictive. I go back to the definition. The World Health Organization. The World Health Organization has defined health since 1942 as not only, they say, the absence of disease, but the physical, mental, and social well-being. I remind people that cannabis touches not only the physical well-being, like PTSD, cancer patients. It touches the mental well-being of keeping people stable, anxiety, fear, depression, and then the social, physical, mental, social. It gets people to be more kind with each other, socialize, safer and better generally, certainly, than alcohol. The finest pediatricians have said, and I've always argued, if your brain is underdeveloped, you should not be consuming any drug. You should not be consuming alcohol. You should not be consuming tobacco. You should not be consuming cannabis for an underdeveloped brain. But when you push a pediatrician and you ask honestly, if you had to tell your kids which one to use, even a pediatrician would tell you they're all bad at a young age.
Making bold statements here, but I also think that we back it up with you can see with your own eyes the proof that we have a great facility. So it makes me less nervous than I would be otherwise.
See, what Christina is throwing is proper caution.
Yeah.
If it was left to me, I would say, I guarantee this will improve your life.
Yeah.
And then I would say, except my lawyer won't let me say that. It's the truth. And we need to be cautious.
Yeah.
But I get amused with politicians who are not truthful. We say, for example, I'm going to get very political, no offense. We say, for example, you are too young under the age of 21 to consume cannabis because your brain is not developed. I support that and understand that because the brain should be allowed to develop. But you're not too young to make transgender decisions about things that will change your life forever. So we have this mentality, what's good for one is not good for the other. All we should do is apply a standard, whatever that standard is, consistently. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. And, as a business owner of one of the biggest cannabis companies in the state, and also a Republican, how do you think that's going to affect you running for governor, right?
I've been told that may be a huge hurdle to overcome. Because Republicans allegedly are anti-cannabis. We have a president who has advocated for legalization. We have a president who's actually recently signed an order to move it from a Schedule 1 drug like heroin and move it to a Schedule 3 drug, which is prescription strength Tylenol. So that's honesty. We did studies way back in the Nixon days, and those studies concluded this was as safe as anything out there, but we just politicized it. So I do believe, yes, there are those doubters and there are those deniers, but there are also the same people who go extreme on other kind of political beliefs. I believe in the end we will overcome it. And let me throw this out there. Remember, at the height of the medical program, there were 165,000 adults enrolled in it. Guess what? They're also voters.
Yeah.
And if you give them a choice who they're going to vote for, I think it'll become clear. A Republican Hispanic candidate who actually understands cannabis, understands personal freedom, understands entrepreneurship, understands capitalism, understands the nature of what New Mexicans believe, they'll make the right choice.
Well, in my view, a true Republican, a conservative, right? It's economic freedom, right?
Yes.
That's what it's all about. That's what conservatism is all about.
I'm not telling people how to live their lives. I don't think we should tell independent people how to live their life. Everybody should make. I told this story over and I mean it. I used to attend what used to be called Victory Love Fellowship up there on Central.
Yeah.
Almost at Central and Coors.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be Pastor Rob Carmen. And one of the most significant sermons he ever gave. The one gift that God gives us is choice. Choice. God doesn't say, you don't sit there and say, I want to win the lottery, but never buy a lottery ticket. So God's given us a choice. This is the choice we've made, as have many New Mexicans, and we must respect their choice also.
Why did you decide to get into cannabis? What was like the idea that just popped in here? What was the reason why you decided to get into this industry?
Like a moth to a flame.
Uh-huh.
If it's challenging, if it's wrong, if it's something that we need to make better, set an example of how to do it right. I have this, unfortunately, this consistent saying that I believe in right. And no one has been treated better in this state than me. I grew up on Medicaid. I grew up on food stamps. I lived in the projects in Alamogordo off First Street. I've had every opportunity given to me. And I know because people gave me a choice and a chance. I saw this, a group of individuals from Silver City approached me and says, we have this license. And I said, show me. So I then researched it. You'll laugh who my first consultant was. He was an inmate at the county jail. And I would meet with him and he came out in his shackles, comes out. And I said, tell me how this thing works. And then I went to secret grows and secret dispensaries. I did the knock on the door and I saw a little, with a little teardrop tattoo, Spider said, "Orale, who are you, dude?" I says, so-and-so sent me, bro. And he says, come on in. And I saw grows. I saw cultivations. I saw people selling brownies. I saw them. I said, wait a minute. And unfortunately, not supposed, my lawyer's going to get mad at me again. They said, dude, I got to know you're not a narc. You take a puff. Dude, come on. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I still got to drive. But then they calmed down and I'd say, look, and they said, dude, you can do this. And on a commercial scale? Really? People want this. And they would unwrap folding papers and show me how they succeeded. But that wasn't enough to convince me. The final thing that pushed me over the edge is the medical application. The veterans. Patients who protected from severe pain. I'm sorry? Oh, God. The poster child for cannabis legalization was a child in Colorado who suffered from severe epilepsy. Basically, having them so severe that she was going to die. And guess what stopped her entire epileptic life? Well, you've seen most everything on the campus outside of a dispensary, which there is a satellite dispensary on this campus.
Mm-hmm.
But as we started off this tour, you've seen probably 110,000 square feet of under roof cultivation.
Yeah.
You've seen an outdoor grow that can support about 600 plants. You've seen a 10.5 acre campus. And in the end, you probably see one of the finest views in this entire Turkey metro area.
There's one question that I know everyone's going to want me to ask, Duke.
Please.
And we talked about this a while back, me and you. Right? There's a lot of people talking about your dual residency, right? Your dual residency. Or you have a home in Arizona, you have a home here. How can you assure New Mexicans that you're not just doing business in New Mexico and politics in New Mexico, but that you live here in New Mexico?
It's one of the easiest things to answer. And let me do it in several parts. Number one, I arrived in Silver City, New Mexico at the age of 14. I have lived continuously for 54 years in New Mexico. Went to junior high in Silver City, went to high school in Alamogordo, went to college at New Mexico State University, arrived in Albuquerque in 1979. I've had a home that I've owned in Albuquerque, multiple homes, moved about from Tanawan to Cherry Hills, and most people in Albuquerque know these subdivisions. Now I live near High Desert. I've had a home that I've owned continuously, repeatedly, that I've occupied, that I built my life, built my business, and built my future right here. And so when I say that, part two of this is I equate it to the fact that I am kryptonite to the Democrats. I'm kryptonite to a lot of Republicans because I am the biggest threat for them not getting their political machine in place the way they want. So they realize that risk is real, and this guy is not going to bend and do what they want. So I think they've created this, what I call the equivalent. Remember with Obama, they had the birther issue. Is he born in Kenya?
Yeah.
Now the thing is, does Duke travel to Arizona? I travel to Arizona. And as I do to Vegas, and as I do to a lot of places across this country, I've worked in cannabis across the country. But I'm going to tell you what, my home is right there at the foothills of Sandia. My granddaughters live walking distance away. My son and his family. Again, I built my family, and more importantly, I built my future here the entire time. Where's our capital invested? Right here. And I'm very proud of it. But let's go one step further. Let's talk about what the Constitution says. It says very specifically about who can serve. And when we talk about who can serve, it says must reside, 2 words, reside continuously. It didn't say where you had breakfast this morning. It didn't say where you drove around this weekend. It talks about where have you resided continuously. And there is absolutely no doubt that I've resided continuously for approximately 54 years. So their birther example is not going to work. And I'll give you one final example to think about. Let's talk about my primary, and I don't mean primary in Republican race, but my final, probably most likely opponent in the general election. Let's call her DC Deb. All right, let's call her DC Deb. Yeah. Some people would really say, and I don't mean to say DWI Deb, but I'm just saying, let's just stay with DC Deb, all right? Let's be honest.
Okay.
She applied for a job in Washington, D.C. She wasn't recruited into the military. She applied for a job like every New Mexican does. And she picked up her roots, lived and moved to D.C. for what, 4 of the last 5 years?
Probably longer, because she was a congresswoman before she was...
Gee whiz, right. Where have I been the entire time? Why do these people know me? Why does this state know me? Why have I sued the state repeatedly? Yeah. Because you know what? Again, if there's anybody whose residency should be questioned, it's not mine. I will argue this right now in front of everyone. I'll tell you straight up. If you combine the residency of Greg Hall, Sam Bregman, Deb Holland, throw in Ken Miyagishima, if you combined all of those candidates, and tell you what, add up their residence. Sam's not from here. Deb was a military brat traveling around the country. Add them all up. I'm the guy who's been here since 54 years ago, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I'm still here today. And the fact is, I'm the guy that's probably going to win. And that's what scares me.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one more question, right? Healthcare, right? Right now we're seeing, the Roundhouse, they're talking about malpractice reform. What are you going to do when you get in there? How are you going to fix our healthcare system? And the reason why I ask is because I know that you love healthcare, right? That's what you did for a long time for Governor Gary Johnson. So how do we really fix this system? Is this, malpractice bill really going to fix it?
No. I'm going to tell you what. Malpractice reform is necessary, but its impact won't be seen for 24 to 36 months because premiums are set by actuaries, not by voters.
Yeah.
And so the actuaries will have to believe that the risk has declined to lower the rates. So it's a necessary piece of the puzzle, but is not the solution. Compacts are necessary. But both of these things, I have to ask the current sitting governor, why didn't we do this 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Why now? Why is this now your legacy? Because you knew you screwed up. The fact is the healthcare system in New Mexico is the worst that it's ever been, including the biggest budget eater of all, Medicaid.
Yeah.
I am the only guy that not only was a Medicaid consumer, but was a Medicaid reformer. And we need to reform Medicaid once again, right-size it to make sure it is the safety net for those who need it, but not a $15 billion burden on taxpayers.
Yeah.
The right benefits to the right people.
I said this is the last question, but one more.
Please.
Okay. Now, I know, especially with independents, right, here in New Mexico, and everyone's going to ask you about Trump, right? If Trump does something to the state of New Mexico that hurts us, right? Even though you're a Republican, what are you going to do to fight back, right? Because a lot of people, are you going to agree with every policy he puts out there and you're going to fall in line with the Republican Party, or are you going to do what you need to do and take care of New Mexicans?
When I become governor of New Mexico will possess, between myself and our team, probably the smartest minds in healthcare in the entire country. Instead of being reactionary to these things, we should finally go back to our proper position of leading and making them understand the issue. I don't think that the president is always doing 100% of the things right all the time, but I also believe that creative tension is a healthy thing. But if there was someone more knowledgeable stepping forward and saying, this is how we do things, it would be better than having the current U.S. congressional members, of the senators and the House members, just casting stones and holding paper signs saying, this isn't what ordinary, what was that? This isn't normal. Stop doing that. And stop saying what works. We're going to lead the country in fixing healthcare. We're going to lead the country in fixing SNAP. We're going to lead the country in protecting our rural hospitals. This isn't rocket scientists. This just takes someone who has lived in the trenches and done these things. You're not going to get it from the current administration. You're not going to get it from any of the candidates. That's what we do different. And you know what? I tend to believe that while sometimes, certainly, the president says things probably not the best way, okay? And he doesn't look like he has compassion. I'm not afraid to saying, you're wrong. We have to differ on opinions. I'm not afraid of saying, there's a better way. And nobody should lead this country more than New Mexico. We are 50% minority majority population. If anybody knows what the future of this country looks like, we do, okay? We do. And we should basically own our space and tell the country, we're not reactionary, we are leaders. And then we just need to retake that role again. Anybody who acts irresponsible and doesn't understand that oil and gas is the foundation of our success, being God blessed with the second largest oil producing state in the country, who wants to take that away from us, is a complete idiot. Our goal is to protect the industries, and that not just means oil and gas. Protect oil and gas. Protect our bases. Holloman Air Force Base, Cannon Air Force Base, White Sands Missile Range. Protect our labs, Los Alamos, Sandia, like I've said before. Protect our agricultural industry. To protect our four top industries, including the fourth one, healthcare. We need to learn to prioritize healthcare. And I'm sorry if this offends some people, our priority should be expanding primary care. Instead of rushing out there trying to build abortion clinics, we should be rushing out there and providing primary care first and foremost. Not trying to get political headlines, but do things that benefit everyday New Mexicans. And I know that says, oh, Duke, you're saying, no, listen to me. We're not a poor state. We're a poorly run state. We don't have a money problem. We have a management problem. And I intend, and I promise, we're going to address every one of those things.